All right, so I'm just going to do a quick review of equations of a line. There are three different general types of equations of a line. You have the general form, you have the slope-intercept form, and then you also have the point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. All right, I typically will always write in slope-intercept form because that's what's going to give me the most information, right? It's going to give me my slope and it's going to give me my y-intercept. I included the general form just because my math lab sometimes asks you for that form. All right, so we're just going to talk about different ways of finding the equation of a line. So really when I'm thinking about the equation of a line, I need two things. I need the slope and I need another point, right? If I have those two things, then I can find the equation of a line. So let's take a look at number 1A. It says the line has slope m equals -2 and passes through the point 3, -1. So the way that I always do this is I say, okay, well, I know that y equals mx plus b is the equation of a line that I'm looking for. And they give me what m is, and they also give me a value for x and y. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for b and plug that in. That's going to give me my equation of a line. All right, so my y value is -1. My m value is -2. My x value is 3. And I'm looking for b. All right, now if you want to use the slope point slope form, you can, but this is in general, this is how I do it every time. All right, so I have a -1 equals -6 plus b. If I add 6 to both sides, I get b equals 5. So the equation of my line is y equals -2x, right? -2 is my slope, plus b. All right, the next question, next example says it passes through the points 1, 4 and -6, 2. Right? So they give me a point, they don't give me a slope. But since I have 2 points, I can find the slope, right? Changing y over changing x. So my slope is going to be 4 minus 2 over 1 minus -6. Now, which one you choose for 1 and which one you choose for 2 does not matter as long as you stay consistent. So 4 minus 2 is 2, and 1 minus -6 is 7. So my slope is 2/7. Now again, I'm going to plug into y equals mx plus b because now I have a slope and I have a point, and now that becomes the exact same type of problem that we did in A. You can use whatever point you want. I'm going to use the first one. So my y value is 4. My m value is, my slope is 2/7. My x value is 1, and I'm looking for b. So b is equal to 4 minus 2/7. And that's 28 minus 2, which is 26/7. So the equation of my line is y equals mx plus my b. All right, the next one says the line that is parallel to 3x minus 4y plus 7 and passes through the point -2, 1. I have a point. What do I need? I need a point and a slope. They say it's parallel to this line. All right, now I don't know what the slope is in this line just by looking at it, but if I rewrite it in the correct form, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides, and 7. And now I'm going to divide both sides by -4. So I get y equals 3/4 x plus 7/4. All right, parallel lines have the same slope. So the slope of my new line is 3/4. All right, the 7/4 has nothing to do with my line. That's the y-intercept of this line. So my slope is 3/4, and I'm going through the point -2, 1. So again, so my slope is 3/4. So now I have a slope and I have a point. I'm going to plug it into y equals mx plus b. So y is 1. M is 3/4. X is -2 plus b. 3/4 times -2 gives me a -3/2. And I'm going to add that to both sides. And that gives me a 5/2. So the equation of my line is 3/4 x, 3/4 is my slope, plus my y-intercept, 5/2. All right, next question is the line that is perpendicular. All right, so perpendicular lines do not have the same slope. They have the opposite reciprocal, meaning I have to flip the fraction and change the sign. But again, I need to figure out what the slope is in this equation, in this line, to figure out what the slope is in my line. And then again, I have a point, so then I have a point and a slope. So I have a -2x, here, let's do this. Let's do 3y equals a -2x minus 8. So I just added 3y to both sides. And now I'm going to divide by 3. So I get y equals -2/3 x minus 8/3. So this line has a slope of -2/3. The slope of a perpendicular line, I'm going to flip the fraction, so 3/2, and change the sign. That sign was negative, so my sign will be positive. Now this is the slope of my line. So I have a slope and I have a point. And I'm going to plug into y equals mx plus b. My y is 1. My m is 3/2. My x is -2. And I want to solve for b. 3/2 times -2 gives me -3. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. And b is 4. The equation of my line that goes through, let's see, I was reading the next question. I think there's a mistake. So my slope is 3/2 x plus 4. All right, so part E says the perpendicular line. I believe what I meant to say horizontal. So this should say horizontal. All right, so if I'm thinking about a horizontal line that passes through the point 4, -6. So I'm just going to draw 4, -6. So here's 4, -6. The only line that is horizontal that could possibly go through there is this line right here. Y equals -6. Right, so that's my line. So remember, if I have horizontal lines or vertical lines, then they are not in the form y equals mx plus b. It will look like x equals or y equals. Y equals are horizontal lines, x equals are vertical lines. F says the line with undefined slope that passes through -1, 9. All right, and so when I want to think about undefined slope, let's take a look at what our slope formula is. All right, remember, if I have 0 over stuff, I get 0. But crap over 0 is undefined. So what I need to happen is I need this denominator to be 0. All right, if that denominator is 0, then I have an undefined slope. And that will happen when the x values are exactly the same. All right, and when all the x values are the same, that's going to give me a vertical line, right? Because I could come up with points -1, 4, -1, -7. All of those are going to give me a line with the same x values, all right? So if I'm looking for the line with the undefined slope through -1, 9, that means I'm looking for the equation of the line, a vertical line that goes through that point. And that could only be this line right here, which is x equals -1. all right? Horizontal lines have slope 0 because that would mean their values, the y values are the same, all right? And that would give me 0 over, whoops. Man, I'm struggling. That would give me 0 over some number, right? So horizontal lines have slope 0 and vertical lines have undefined slope. All right, 2 more examples. So find the k so that the line through 2, 1 and k negative 1 is perpendicular to 3x minus 2y plus 4. All right, so I know how to find the slope between 2 points. In this case, one of those values is a variable. So we're wanting to find that variable so that the slope is perpendicular to this line here. So what we need to do is we need to use our slope formula, right? Our slope formula looks like this. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right, so we have our slope, and we want it to be perpendicular to this line here. All right, so we need to find the slope of 3x minus 2y plus 4, and then find what a perpendicular line is, slope is, and then set it equal to what we just found for n. And that's going to give me my k value that I know. All right, so let's rewrite this as 2 over 2 minus k. If I rewrite my 3x minus 2y plus 4, I get a 2y equals 3x plus 4. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 2 and have y equals 3 halves x plus 2. Now, since I have a perpendicular line, that slope is going to have opposite reciprocal, meaning I'm going to flip it, which gives me 2/3, and I'm going to change the sign, which is negative. All right, so I have m equals negative 2/3. So I need to find the k value that gives me a slope of a negative 2/3. So I'm going to set negative 2/3 equal to, I hear you, Tiny. Almost done. Negative 2/3. All right. So why don't we go ahead? Hey. Why don't we go ahead and cross multiply? Come on. You can jump. You can do it. Come on. All right. So I have a 3 times 2, which is 6. And then I'm going to let this negative sign go with the 2. It could have gone with the 3. Either one would have been fine. So a 2 minus k. And let's distribute the negative 2. So I get a negative 4 plus k. Add 4 to both sides, and I get k equals 10. All right, so that should give me a slope so that my line has a slope of negative 2/3. And we can check to make sure. So we're going to change that to a 10. So I have a 1 minus negative 1 over 2 minus k. All right. So I have a 2 over 2 minus 10. Uh-oh, we did something wrong. Let's try that again. Oh, maybe we're okay. All right, so this gives me a 2 over negative 6, which is still not what we want. That gives me a 1/3. Here's where we made a mistake. All right, so let's go back here. All right, so now I'm going to distribute that negative 2. So I have a 6 equals negative 4 plus 2k. So I have a 2k equals 10, and that k gives me 5. Now, we can check to make sure that that is a correct value. If I plug in 5 here, is that going to give me a slope of negative 2/3 between those 2 points. All right, so I have a 1 minus -1 over a 2 minus 5. All right, so in the top I get a positive 2, in the bottom I get a -3, so I get a slope of a negative 2/3. So the correct value for K is 5. All right, last example. In 1996, there were 41,792 Taekwondo gyms in the United States. In 2006, there were 48,798. Assuming there is a linear relation, write an equation expressing the number Y of Taekwondo gyms in terms of the number X of years after 1996. So what we need to notice is we have 2 points. We have a point for a year and then the number of Taekwondo gyms. Right, they are telling me that it's X of years after 1996. So I'm going to look at 1996, and that is year 0, and there are 41,792 Taekwondo gyms. In 2006, well, that is 10 years after 1996. There are 48,798. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a function that expresses the number of Taekwondo gyms in terms of the number of years. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the slope. So I'm going to do 48,798 minus 41,792 over 10 minus 0. So I'm going to have to get my calculator out for that. So 48,798 minus 41,792. And I get 7,006. And we divide that by 10. And we get 700.6. All right, so it looks like we're increasing by 700.6 a year. Now, I still don't have my function completely. I just have my slope, but I do have my y-intercept. So that's my b, right? So my function is going to be 700.6x. I guess we should call this y for now because that's what they told us. Plus my y-intercept, 41,792. Now, if you didn't recognize that that was your y-intercept, you could have still plugged into y equals mx plus b. You could have just used either of those points, but it would have been easier to use the first point because I could have plugged in 0 for x, right? And that's just going to give me my b value as my y value, all right, which was 41,792. Okay, so here's our equation. And then part B wants us to know when will the number of Taekwondo gyms reach 80,000, all right? So Y is my number of Taekwondo gyms, so I'm going to let 80,000 equal 700.6x plus 41,792. So I'm going to take 80,000 and I'm going to subtract my 41,792. And that gives me 700.6x equals 38,208. And let's divide by 700.6. So I'm getting 54.54 or 54 point. So if I'm talking about years after 1996, So that means in the year 2050. So in the year 2050. All right, so it will happen sometime in that year. So before 2051, halfway through 2051 or 2050. All right, that is the review on linear equations. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me, come see me in my office hours. And thank you very much. Have a good evening.